Imagine a team of mailmen, dishwashers, and cleaners playing against the absolute greatest football team in the world and actually winning. That actually happened. The history of the United States in the FIFA World Cup is the most chaotic, bizarre, and unbelievable story in international football. From 40 years of pure darkness to wearing literal denim jeans on the pitch in the 90s, all the way to hosting the 2026 World Cup right now. Americans love to say they dominate every sport. But when it comes to the World Cup, the journey has been an absolute roller coaster of epic miracles, brutal heartbreak, and insane redemption. Let's talk about the complete, wild history of the U.S. men's national team. We have to go all the way back to the beginning. 1930, the very first FIFA World Cup, held in Uruguay. Most people assumed the U.S. was terrible back then, but you were completely wrong. The United States actually showed up to South America and dominated. They beat Belgium 3-0. They beat Paraguay 3-0. They reached the semifinals, where they eventually lost to Argentina. But because of their goal difference, the USA finished the 1930 World Cup in third place. Let me repeat that. The United States finished third in the world. To this day, almost 100 years later, this remains the greatest finish by a team from outside of Europe and South America. It was an incredible start. It looked like the U.S. was going to be a footballing superpower. But then, things got weird. Fast forward to 1950 in Brazil. The U.S. team was not full of professional superstars playing in massive European leagues. They were a group of part-time amateurs. We are talking about literal mailmen, dishwashers, high school teachers, and cleaners. They drew a match against the mighty England. At the time, England was considered the undisputed kings of football. They literally invented the game. The English media thought the match was going to be a joke. They expected to win by 10 goals. But then, in the 38th minute, a Haitian-born dishwasher named Joe Gaetjens dove for a header, deflecting the ball past the English goalkeeper. The U.S. took a 1-0 lead. For the rest of the game, the American part-timers defended for their lives. The final whistle blew. USA 1, England 0. It is still considered one of the biggest upsets in the history of sports. It was dubbed the Miracle on Grass. When the score was telegraphed back to newspapers in England, editors literally thought it was a typo. They assumed England won 10-1 and the telegraph machine broke. It was a moment of pure magic. But sadly, it was the last piece of magic they would see for a very, very long time. After 1950, American soccer entered what we can only call the Dark Ages. For 40 straight years, from 1954 to 1986, the United States failed to qualify for a single World Cup. 9 consecutive tournaments without an American team. The sport practically died in the U.S. Kids played baseball, basketball, and American football. Soccer was seen as a weird foreign sport played in the suburbs, not a serious professional endeavor. The national team was irrelevant. They played qualifying matches in empty stadiums. It seemed like the USA would never return to the global stage. But in 1989, everything changed with one single kick. The shot heard round the world. To qualify for the 1990 World Cup in Italy, the U.S. had to beat Trinidad and Tobago in their final game. In the 30th minute, Paul Caligiuri hit a looping, dipping shot from 30 yards out that found the back of the net. It was dubbed the shot heard round the world. The U.S. won 1-0, breaking the 40-year curse and qualifying for the World Cup. They lost all 3 games in Italy in 1990, but it didn't matter. They were back, and the timing was perfect because they were about to host the biggest party on earth. In 1994, the FIFA World Cup came to the United States. The pressure was immense. FIFA was terrified that Americans wouldn't care about the tournament. But the 1994 World Cup broke attendance records that still stand today. Over 3.5 million people showed up to massive American football stadiums. And the U.S. team? They made sure everyone remembered them. Not just because they played well, but because they wore arguably the most insane, iconic, and terrible kits in football history, the denim kits. They literally wore jerseys designed to look like fake blue jeans covered in giant white stars. It was the most aggressively American thing ever created. Despite looking completely ridiculous, the U.S. shocked the world again by beating Colombia 2-1, thanks to an infamous own goal by Andres Escobar. They escaped the group stage and played Brazil on the 4th of July. They lost 1-0 to the eventual champions, but the 1994 tournament saved American soccer. Major League Soccer was born shortly after. Hey, real quick, before we get to the modern era of U.S. soccer, I want to know from you guys, what country's World Cup history should we cover next? Brazil? England? Argentina? Let me know down in the comments right now. I'm reading all of them. Alright, back to the video. 2002. Cero. After a disastrous last-place finish in 1998, the U.S. entered the 2002 World Cup in South Korea and Japan with zero expectations. But this tournament became the modern peak of the USMNT. They shocked a golden generation of Portugal 3-2 in the opening match. They advanced to the round of 16, where they faced their ultimate bitter rivals, Mexico. This was the biggest game in the history of North American soccer, and the U.S. absolutely dominated. Goals from Brian McBride and Landon Donovan secured a 2-0 victory. The famous Cero chant was born on the global stage. The U.S. reached the quarterfinals, matching up against the powerhouse Germany. They played brilliantly, but lost 1-0 after a controversial missed handball on the goal line by German defender Torsten Frings. It was heartbreak, but it proved the U.S. could finally hang with the big boys. The Landon Donovan miracle. By 2010 in South Africa, expectations were high. In their final group stage match against Algeria, the U.S. needed a win to advance. The game was tied 0-0. The clock hit the 91st minute. The U.S. was seconds away from being eliminated. Then, a massive counterattack. Tim Howard throws it out. Clint Dempsey shoots. The keeper saves it, but the rebound falls perfectly to Landon Donovan. Donovan slots it home. The stadium erupts. The commentators lose their minds. Go, go, USA. It is, without a doubt, the most iconic and emotional goal in U.S. soccer history. It sent them to the round of 16, where they unfortunately fell to Ghana in extra time. The Secretary of Defense. In 2014 in Brazil, the U.S. was drawn into the group of death with Germany, Portugal, and Ghana. Nobody gave them a chance. But they beat Ghana, secured a dramatic 2-2 draw with Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal, and advanced to the round of 16 against Belgium. What happened next was a legendary performance by one man, goalkeeper Tim Howard. Belgium battered the U.S. for 120 minutes, firing shot after shot. Tim Howard made a World Cup record 16 saves in a single match. He was a literal brick wall. The internet started calling him the Secretary of Defense. Someone even changed the Wikipedia page for the U.S. Secretary of Defense to have his face on it. Despite his heroics, Belgium won 2-1 in extra time. Another heartbreak in the round of 16. And then came 2018, the lowest point in modern U.S. soccer history. To qualify for Russia, the U.S. just needed a draw against a tiny island nation, Trinidad and Tobago, who were already eliminated. It was supposed to be a walk in the park. Instead, the U.S. played terribly, gave up an own goal, and lost 2-1. Combined with results in other matches, the United States was eliminated. They failed to qualify for the World Cup for the first time since 1986. It was a national embarrassment. The entire federation had to be torn down and rebuilt from scratch. Which brings us to 2022 in Qatar. The U.S. brought the second youngest team in the entire tournament. A new generation of stars playing in Europe: Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams. They had a point to prove. They survived a tough group, drawing against England and beating Iran in an incredibly tense, high-stakes match where Pulisic literally sacrificed his body to score the winning goal. They reached the round of 16 again, but were outclassed by a highly tactical Netherlands team, losing 3-1. It was a solid performance, but the fans wanted more. They were tired of just surviving the group. They wanted a deep run. The 2026 World Cup is here, hosted right here in North America. The pressure has never been higher, and the U.S. men's national team is delivering right now as we speak. They crushed Paraguay 4-1 in their opening match. They shut down Australia 2-0. Sure, they had a tough 3-2 loss to Turkey, but they bounced right back in the massive round of 32, dominating Bosnia and Herzegovina 2-0. The hype is absolutely unreal right now. The entire country is watching as this golden generation steps onto the pitch for the round of 16 against Belgium. It's a massive rematch from 2014, and the U.S. has home field advantage in Seattle. Can they finally break through and reach the quarterfinals again? Can they win the whole tournament on home soil? The story is being written right now. From finishing third in 1930 to 40 years of darkness to hosting the biggest tournament on Earth in 2026, the USA's World Cup journey is truly one of a kind. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and make sure you subscribe to The Hidden Angle for more epic football history. And don't forget to comment what country you want to see next. See you in the next one. And before you go, did you spot all the hidden football legends hiding in the background of this video? If you did, drop their names in the comments below.